Let me paint you a picture. It's a crisp Saturday morning in 2026. You just rolled out of bed, grabbed your coffee, and walked into your driveway to admire the shiny new truck you bought 6 months ago. But today, it's not starting. The dash is lit up like a Christmas tree. And the loan you're paying on it? Yeah, that's still got another 5 years to go. You're about to find out that the truck you thought was the smart buy is actually a financial anchor that's about to drag you under. Have you ever made a purchase that felt amazing in the moment, only to realize months later that you ignored every single red flag because you were too excited to see them? Because if you're in the market for a new truck this year, or even thinking about trading up, you need to hear this before you sign on the dotted line. What I'm about to tell you might save you $10,000 in repairs, or worse, save you from the soul-crushing feeling of watching your truck's value plummet to zero while it sits in a service bay waiting for parts that don't exist. Let's start with number 1 on our list, and I want you to pay close attention because this truck is the king of the cheap lease trap. I'm talking about the Ram 1500. Now, I know what you're thinking. You see them everywhere. The interior is gorgeous, that big touch screen looks like an iPad glued to the dash, and the ride is smoother than your uncle's Cadillac. Dealers are practically throwing these things at people right now with zero down and payments that look like a steal. But here's the scary part. They're doing that for a reason. Stellantis, the parent company, is desperate to move units because they know what's coming down the pipeline in terms of reliability data. Specifically, we're looking at the eTorque system and the ongoing nightmare that is the Ram electrical architecture. If you buy a 2026 Ram 1500, especially with the V6 or the new Hurricane Inline 6, you are essentially buying a computer on wheels that was programmed by a committee that didn't talk to each other. The eTorque system, which is their mild hybrid setup, replaces the alternator with a motor generator. When it works, it's fine. When it fails, and it fails often, you're looking at a bill that starts at $4,000 just for the part, never mind the labor. And it gets worse. The infotainment system isn't just for music and maps anymore. It controls your climate, your drive modes, and your safety systems. When that screen freezes, and it will freeze, you lose AC in the summer, heat in the winter, and sometimes you lose the ability to shift the truck out of park. Imagine being stranded in a parking lot because your radio crashed. That's the reality of Ram ownership in 2026. But wait. There's a deeper issue here that the salesman won't tell you about. It's the transmission. They've been using variations of the ZF 8-speed for a while, which is a great transmission, but the tuning they're using on the 2026 models to meet fuel economy standards is so aggressive that it's causing premature wear on the torque converter. You'll feel a shudder between 35 and 45 miles per hour. Dealers will tell you it's characteristic of the vehicle. That's code for, we know it's broken, but we're waiting for the warranty to expire so we don't have to pay for it. Let's move to number 2, and this one is going to hurt a lot of loyalists out there. I'm looking at you, Nissan Titan fans, but here's the reality. The Titan is dead. Nissan officially pulled the plug, but they're still selling the remaining 2026 models as final edition trucks. Now you might think, great, a discontinued truck means I can get a massive discount. And you'd be right. You can walk out the door with a brand new, full-size V8 truck for under $40,000 right now. But here's the hidden trap that nobody warns you about. Buying a discontinued vehicle isn't just about resale value, though we'll get to that massacre in a second. It's about parts availability. Nissan is not a company known for supporting their dead nameplates with the same vigor as Toyota or Ford. 2 years from now, when you get rear-ended, or when a specific wiring harness that's unique to the 2026 final edition trim fails, the insurance adjuster is going to total your truck over a fender bender because OEM parts simply won't be in the supply chain. And let's talk about that resale value. You might think you're being smart buying a truck that nobody wants at a discount, but banks look at residual value. If you ever need to trade this truck in, or if God forbid you total it, the payout from your insurance is based on what the truck is worth in the current market. A truck that no longer exists as a model line loses value faster than a block of ice in July. You will be underwater on this loan before the first payment is due. But the biggest reason to avoid the 2026 Titan isn't even the parts or the depreciation. It's the engine. I know the 5.6-liter Endurance V8 has a reputation for being bulletproof, and in the past, it was. But in these final year models, Nissan started sourcing cheaper components to squeeze the last bit of profit out of the assembly line before they shut it down for good. There have been reports of cylinder deactivation failures and oil consumption issues on these late-model Titans that are eerily similar to the issues that plagued the early 2000s Toyota Tundras. You're buying a truck with a terminal illness. You just don't know it yet. Now, number 3 is where I'm probably going to get the most hate mail, but I have to tell you the truth. I'm talking about the Ford F-150 Raptor R. Or really, any of the high-performance Ford trucks with the supercharged V8. Look, I get it. It's the coolest truck on the road. It sounds like a demon coming down the street. You want to be the guy at the job site or the guy at the tailgate who pulls up in the baddest truck Ford makes. But buying a Raptor R in 2026 is a financial landmine disguised as a luxury vehicle. The problem isn't just the insane markup. Yes, dealers are still asking $20,000, $30,000, even $50,000 over sticker for these trucks. But the real problem is what's happening inside the engine. Ford has been pushing the limits of the 5.2-liter Predator V8. In the Shelby GT500 Mustang, it was a beast, but putting that engine into a 7,000-pound truck and telling people they can jump it and drive it through the desert creates stresses that the engine wasn't originally designed to handle. There's a known issue with the oil pump gears and the timing chain tensioners on these high-output trucks. If you drive a Raptor R the way it was meant to be driven, hard, fast, off-road, you are on borrowed time. If that oil pump gear shatters, which it does with alarming frequency on the 2026 models, your engine is toast. That's a $20,000 replacement engine, and guess what? Ford is currently denying warranty claims if they find even a speck of dirt in the undercarriage. They'll claim you abused the off-road truck by taking it off-road. It's a catch-22. But here's the deeper secret that Ford doesn't want you to know. It's not just the engine, it's the frame. To save weight and improve fuel economy on the base models, Ford has been playing with the metallurgy of the frame rails. On the Raptor, which has massive suspension travel and puts insane leverage on the frame during hard landings, there have been cases of the frame actually bending. Not cracking, bending. You hit a jump a little too hard, and suddenly your 1,000-horsepower truck drives like a crab for the rest of its life. There's no fix for a bent frame. That's a salvage title. And you're still making payments on a $120,000 truck that's now worth $20,000. If you're watching this, and you've got a Raptor R on order, or you're thinking about stretching your budget to get into one, I need you to listen to that gut feeling telling you this is a bad idea. And if you've already had a nightmare experience with a high-performance truck, drop a comment below and let the community know what happened. Did the dealer cover it, or did they leave you holding the bag? Before I get to number 4, which is arguably the most terrifying truck on this list, I need to ask you a favor. If you're finding this information valuable and you want to avoid these kinds of financial disasters, hit that like button. It helps the algorithm show this video to someone who might be walking into a dealership tomorrow ready to make a mistake. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I dig into the secrets that manufacturers don't want you to know about, so you don't end up being the cautionary tale. All right, let's get back to the list, because number 4 is going to shock you. Number 4 is the Chevrolet Silverado 2500 HD, specifically the ones equipped with the Duramax diesel and the new Allison transmission. Now, this is a truck that people buy because they need to work. They need to tow heavy trailers, haul heavy loads, and they think buying a heavy-duty diesel is the safe, reliable bet. And historically, they'd be right. But in 2026, GM has made a change that fundamentally breaks the value proposition of this truck. It's the emission system, but not in the way you think. We all know diesel emission systems are problematic. We know about the DEF fluid, the clogged DPF filters, the EGR coolers. That's old news. The new problem is the integration of the engine software with the transmission. GM decided to optimize the shifting strategy to improve fuel economy for the EPA ratings. What that means in real-world terms is that the transmission hunts for gears constantly. If you're towing a 10,000-pound trailer, the truck is trying to get into 10th gear at 55 miles per hour, which lugs the engine, creates massive heat in the transmission, and puts insane stress on the main bearings of the Duramax. This leads to what's called cylinder washdown, where unburnt fuel gets past the piston rings and dilutes your engine oil. If you don't catch it, and you won't because the oil life monitor won't alert you to this, you will spin a rod bearing. That's a $20,000 engine replacement on a truck you bought to make money with. But here's the worst part. The Allison transmission in these trucks isn't actually built by Allison, it's built by GM, with Allison branding. It's a GM-designed 10-speed, and the 2026 model year has a fatal flaw in the valve body. The valve body controls the flow of hydraulic fluid to shift gears. In the 2026 models, there's a manufacturing defect in the bore that houses the pressure regulator valve. It's out of spec. This causes the valve to get stuck, which leads to a sudden, violent downshift at highway speeds. Imagine you're cruising at 70 miles per hour and the truck slams into second gear. It will throw you through the windshield, and it will blow the transmission into a million pieces. GM knows about this. They issued a technical service bulletin, but not a recall. That means unless you complain loudly and threaten to sue, they're going to make you pay for the tow, pay for the diagnostics, and fight you on the warranty coverage because they'll claim you were overloading the truck. It's a dirty game they're playing, and the guy trying to feed his family with his work truck is the one losing. And finally, number 5. This is the truck that I genuinely believe is going to cause the most heartbreak for buyers in 2026. It's the Toyota Tundra. Now, before you come at me in the comments, I love Toyota. I've owned Toyotas. They have a reputation for reliability that is second to none. But the 2026 Tundra is a different animal. The twin-turbo V6 has been out for a few years now, and we thought they had the bugs worked out. They fixed the machining debris issue that was blowing up the first generation of these engines. But the 2026 model introduces a new problem: the integration of the hybrid system across the entire lineup and the electrical architecture required to support it. Toyota has always been conservative with electronics. They waited until things were proven, but to compete with the F-150 and the Ram, they rushed the tech in the 2026 Tundra. The problem is the battery management system and the electric power steering software. These two systems are fighting each other for control of the truck's CAN bus network. What happens is, when you're driving, especially at low speeds or when towing, the electric power steering will suddenly stop working. It won't fail entirely. It will get heavy, then light, then heavy again, making the truck feel unstable and dangerous to control. Toyota has issued software updates for this, but the updates aren't fixing the problem because it's a hardware limitation. The processor they use to manage the truck's systems simply doesn't have enough bandwidth to handle all the data. But it gets scarier. The twin-turbo V6, while powerful, has a critical design flaw in the exhaust manifold. To make the turbos spool faster and make the truck feel responsive, the manifolds are integrated into the cylinder head. This saves space and reduces weight, but it creates a heat soak issue. The turbos cook the valve springs. By 30,000 miles on the 2026 models, we're starting to see valve spring failures. When a valve spring breaks on a modern interference engine, the piston hits the valve and the engine destroys itself. Toyota is currently replacing entire long blocks for this issue, but the replacement engines have the same design flaw. You're not fixing the problem, you're just resetting the timer. And the worst part? The hybrid system adds a complexity that makes working on the engine nearly impossible. If you're out of warranty, a simple repair that would cost a few $1,000s on a Ford or Ram will cost you $15,000 on the Tundra because the cab has to come off to access the back of the engine. So, what do? Are there any good trucks left? Of course there are. But you have to be smart about it. You have to go in with your eyes open. The manufacturers aren't making trucks for people who keep them for 20 years anymore. They're making them for people who lease them for 3 years and then dump them. If you are the kind of person who buys a truck to own it, to depend on it, to hand it down to your kid one day, you have to avoid these 5 models. You have to look at the older, simpler stuff, or you have to be willing to pay the price in downtime and repair bills. The bottom line is this: walking onto a dealership lot in 2026 is like walking through a minefield. The salesmen are trained to get you focused on the monthly payment and the shiny touchscreen. They want you to ignore the engine ticking, the transmission shudder, and the looming parts shortages. Your job is to protect your future self. Don't let the excitement of a new truck smell blind you to the reality of a $20,000 repair bill that's waiting for you just outside the warranty period. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be this: do your research, look at owner forums, and don't buy a truck based on how it looks in the driveway. Buy it based on how it runs after 50,000 miles. Now, I've given you the 5 to avoid, but in my next video, I'm going to tell you about the 3 used trucks from 2020 to 2024 that you can buy right now for under $30,000 that will outlast everything on this list. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you're subscribed so you see it first. Stay smart out there, and I'll talk to you in the next one.